Hey everyone, welcome to Singularity Computers Client Build Video 2. As I mentioned in my previous client build video, this is not the second client build that I've done. I've actually done hundreds of client builds through my business over the years. Singularity Computers is the name of my business, and I do computer repairs and build custom systems and also water-cooled systems. And I ship my systems internationally. Anyway, the computer that I'm building today, so what I'm going to do is first of all show you the hardware that I'm using, and then I'm going to show you the build process, and then I'm going to do some testing. So first of all, the CPU that I'm using is the Core i3 2100. So this is a socket 1155 second generation Core Series CPU. Next up, I'm using 8 gig of G.Skill Ripjaws X. It runs at 1333 MHz, 77721, 1.5 volts. The motherboard that I'm using in the build is the Asus P8Z68M Pro. I have previously done a review on this motherboard, so click on the link on the screen to check that out for all the details. Just there you can see the optical drive that I'm using. It's just a light-on, actually it's an LG DVD-RW. The case that I'm using in the build is the Silverstone Temjin TJ08E. Now I've already covered this case in a review, so make sure you check that out for all the details. It's important that you check out the reviews because I don't like to cover things twice. So I won't be talking much about the components that I've already reviewed. Also, I'm using Windows 7 Home Premium 64-bit, which you can see up there on top of the case. So that's all the hardware that I'm using. I'm now going to start the build, and I'll give you a bit of a closer look at each of the components as I'm installing them into the system. Just a close-up look at the memory. I really like these heat sinks. They actually have a similar heatsink on the new Ripjaws Z quad channel memory for the X79 platform. I've actually done a review on a similar kit to this, so I'll put a link on the screen. The hard drive that I'm using in the build is a Western Digital Caviar Black 1 TB. So it's actually a SATA 2 version with 32 meg of cache. Okay, you would have noticed in the first part of the video that the power supply that I intended to use in this build was the Corsair CX430. Well, I've had to upgrade to this Corsair HX650 at no further cost to the customer, mind you. I had absolutely no other power supplies in stock that I could have swapped to. So what happened was, this was intended for the Singularity NAS build. Now, I have a build log on this build on my channel, so make sure you check that out. I'll put a link on the screen. So I explain in the Singularity NAS build log why I couldn't use this particular power supply for that build. So the only other power supply that I had laying around that was suitable for the Singularity NAS build was the CX430 for this build. So I had to swap the power supplies over. It's the only thing I could do. I have to have this build finished by this afternoon, so I couldn't order in another CX430. So I've actually skipped a few steps here. I was going to show you all the components before I installed them. But yeah, I'll just give you a quick look at them now. I'm actually in a bit of a rush with this build. I have to deliver it by this afternoon. But I'll just quickly go over the motherboard. It's upside down here. I've actually got a new table that I do my builds on. I just made it up. It's just a little coffee table with a rotating table on top of it. Just makes it a lot easier to build systems on, so you can spin it around and things. But yeah, that's just a quick look at the motherboard. So it's the P8Z68M Pro. So just check out the review for all the specs and details. I won't go over it again now. And I'm just about to install the CPU, the heatsink and the memory. I'm using the stock cooler, which I don't like doing, but it's an entry-level build. It's my most entry-level build. Usually customers go for a slightly upgraded version, in which, you know, I'll put a more powerful power supply, probably a discrete graphics card and a custom CPU cooler, maybe a few other bits and pieces. But it's actually not that often that I do my most entry-level build. But you know, you just have to stick to the budget that the customer wants. You know, I love building high-end systems, I love going all out, but you can't do it every day. And you know, I would skip some of my really entry-level systems, but I know you guys love this segment. You love my client builds, because I've had a lot of good comments. So yeah, I'm going to show you everything that I do from now on. I also still have to install the hard drive, obviously, and then do all the cable management. In a build like this, or actually in any air-cooled build, in my opinion, the cable management takes the longest. If you do it properly, it really takes the longest out of everything, because dropping in the components literally takes minutes. I mean, you know, whack the motherboard in, do up the screws, CPU, heatsink, takes no time. Slide the hard drive in, slide the power supply in, anything else, that is really fast, literally 5 minutes to do that. The cable management, on the other hand, tying it all back out of the way with cable ties, is going to take probably 15 minutes, even half an hour, even in a simple build like this. That's because I'm so fussy about it. Anyway, I better get on with this build. I thought I'd just show you the top here quickly. What I did, I had to run 2 SATA power. I had to run one down to the hard drives, which I've put a bit extra down there, and I had to run another SATA power to power the optical drive, because normally I just, you know, if there's Molex power in the case for something or other, I just run a converter from 4-pin Molex to SATA to power the optical drive. But yeah, there was no Molex needed in this build, so I had to run another SATA, and I've just clipped it up here. It's completely out of sight, right up in the top here. I mean, this is another area where you can put cables, because this is right out of the way. I'll just show you it from the bottom. You can see that I've, you know, I think they've got 3, yeah, they've got 3 each. So 3 SATA power on each cable. And this is an awesome power supply. But just looking up from the bottom there, you can see that that would be another reasonable position for power cables. Okay, I've finished the build. All I need to do now is put all the panels on, top panel and the 2 side panels. I then need to install Windows and do the testing. So the next step was I put the CPU in, I put the stock CPU cooler on, I installed it. I just used the stock tin that comes with the Intel stock CPU coolers. So yeah, the stock coolers are so easy to install. They just have push pins, so you just push down all 4 corners and plug it in, and then that's it. After that, I installed the memory. I then installed the hard drive, and I've had this question asked a couple of times about this case. Is there enough clearance, like underneath the hard drive, behind the hard drive, for the memory to, you know, to install memory into all 4 slots? Well, here's the answer. You can see the gap there. I know it's a little bit difficult to see, that might be a little bit better. Now that's Ripjaws X memory, so it's a little bit higher than you know, normal memory. I think it's just under 40 millimeters, around 35 millimeters, something like that. So yeah, after I installed the hard drive, I started doing the cable management. First of all, I connected all the front panel connectors that you can see up here. The USB, which I had to convert from USB 3 because the front panel is USB 3, so I had to convert that back to USB 2, and you actually get a converter included with this case, so you can see that plugged in there. I also plugged in the front panel audio, and yeah, then I did the cable management. like all the power supply cables, so I plugged in the power to the hard drive and the optical drive and the motherboard, which the motherboard power is behind there. I actually had to remove all of these bays, which is just a matter of removing 4 screws from the bottom of the case. I had to pull all these bays out. You know, it's very quick and easy to install that 24-pin motherboard power connector to plug it in, because there just wasn't enough room for me to get around behind there and put enough pressure on it to install it. The 8-pin EPS CPU power connector, this case has a hole for it down there. So yeah, that pretty much sums up about everything that I've done. I'll have to show you how I went about the cable management around the back of the case. And here we have all the, basically this 180mm fan has one 3-pin that goes to the fan controller here, and it has one 3-pin that goes to the motherboard. I'm not going to install the fan on the back there. I think there's enough ventilation from that 180mm fan for this particular build, considering that it has no graphics card. But it also has the fan from the power supply sucking hot air out, so I think that should be plenty. So as you can see, this system can handle some substantial upgrades. Now looking from the back, so really the only cables I've got around here from the power supply is the 24-pin motherboard power, the 8-pin EPS, and then on these Corsair power supplies it has these flat non-sleeved cables, and I really like these because they save a lot of space, and you know, they make cable management easy and really neat and clean. I'm actually going to put another cable tie around there. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like and favourite if you want to see more. Thanks everyone.